नमस्कार। आज हमारे साथ एक बार और दिल से स्टोरीज पर हैं वैष्णवी सारथी जी, वेरी स्पेशल गेस्ट। वेलकम।
थैंक यू। नमस्कार।
नमस्कार। आपसे थोड़ा परिचय दीजिए हमारे दर्शकों के लिए।
परिचय I might switch back and forth between Hindi and English, but
नो
um,
प्रॉब्लम।
um, so I no, it's very hard to know where to start. But I'm mom to an autistic teen poet with Down syndrome. So my son has multiple disabilities. I think that's how I kind of entered this discussion. I also have a neurotypical daughter, and a lot of these words have entered my vocabulary recently, like autistic, Down syndrome, neurotypical. So I don't really know the Hindi words for this. I notice that I'm kind of tending towards English here. But yeah, and I'm a chemist. I have a PhD in environmental chemistry, and which I now teach chemistry and math to all kids, but also predominantly autistic kids, autistic non-speaking students.
Thank you very much. And I'm Parag Bharadwaj. I'm a physician in the US. I practice hospice and palliative medicine. So thank you for that great introduction. Um,
Mm.
it's an honor to have you here today. So tell us about your journey. Tell us a little bit about your son. Um, I have a list of questions, but I want you, as his mother, to give you the opportunity to talk about him.
Well, and you can also interject with questions anytime. But I think the most remarkable thing to most people about this journey, and even to myself, is that he was born with enough disabilities and continues to have the same disabilities that would warrant labels of severe intellectual disability and warrant a complete lack of education, which many other kids in the same situation are experiencing. That there's no education, there is whether US or India, the place doesn't matter. People are simply not equipped to. People assume intellectual disability. So, and the fact that he's now communicating using a letterboard, he is stable. He is presenting his poetry he has figured out like one thing he's passionate about, which is writing poetry. He's presenting at colleges. He has a book lined up for publication. So it's that journey, from it's kind of his own hero's journey of going from basically what the world perceives as zero to a hero, right? So I would say is the most remarkable journey. And I think I was just fortunate enough to know to do the right things at the right time. I haven't always done them, but at critical points in time, I think we were presented with the right opportunity, which allowed us to go through this journey.
Thank you. So I'm just going to say it. So you're a hero's mother. I want to
Mhm.
acknowledge that. And tell us about the hero's journey. Because the hero's journey usually has ups and downs. So, uh, being his mother, how did you support him, and what lessons have you learned along the way?
Like the big lesson eventually is to kind of move out of the way consciously, because most know when to intervene and when to move out of the way. But there are many, many smaller lessons. First is to stop seeking validation from the world. When he was born, one of the biggest thing was, I mean, like at least there's a lot of log kya kahenge things in this disability world, and we're trying to just, mollify the world and make sure that, we are ticking all the boxes. It was only when I completely said, pardon my language, screw the world, is when we were able to actually make progress. So a lot of it is saying that I really have to disregard all the expectations, all the way that the world marks growth, and then figure out my own way to mark growth. So that is, in Hero's Journey, the obstacles, like you said, one is the biggest obstacle is societal expectation, societal disregard, and societal lack of support. Everything, the obstacle is society and conditioning. So that is the obstacle, and our own conditioning. Forget about society, our own conditioning. We are taught that, everybody wants a healthy, and nowadays I cringe when people say, I just want a kid who is healthy and happy, because that healthy and happy implies you want your typical, that chap of a kid, right? You want the same, like take a stamp paper and kid the same kid who, ideally is an engineer or a doctor and goes to all the best colleges. In India, they go to IIT. In US, they go to Harvard and all the Ivy League. So you have like, we have a stamp paper and we put that chap. So that's what we mean when we say healthy and happy. But both health and happiness come in many, it's a rainbow. And if we can actually accept that, then real growth is possible. Because until we keep ticking now, until we're constantly apologizing, and when I talk to a lot of mothers, and it's not their fault, because it is society puts a very large burden on mothers. So people are feeling very apologetic, and they're saying, actually my son doesn't know this, actually my son has a disability, sorry, he cannot answer this. Like, why are you feeling sorry for anything? Why do you have to apologize to society? Instead of that, if you start looking at what my son can do, one of the things I've realized and I share a lot is that whenever there is a strong disability, a strong lack of ability to do something, usually there is a mirror skill. I think they call it splinter skills. There is a strong ability to do something else that other people cannot. But finding that ability is not easy. It is there. So in my son, I figured out it was poetry, because his mind is so different. Like, his way of thinking is just completely off the beat. That can manifest in poetry very uniquely. So that was his splinter skill. For some people, it can be very unique interests. But if we keep trying to toe the line, we will never find that, because towing the line will only make you a very average person. But once you are able to kind of just throw the line and explore specific interests, then you can really see where that hero's journey will actually open up, that flower will blossom in front of
It's amazing, the information that you've shared. And so I'm assuming you grew up in India.
Yeah, I grew up in India. My father was in the Air Force, so my hometown is Chennai. My mother tongue is Tamil, but yeah, I grew up here and there, but mostly in Chennai.
Yeah. So you were conditioned in that environment, and then you came to the US. And is Sid born here or in India?
Yes, he was born in the US.
Yeah. So you talked about societal expectations and so forth. Often what I have seen is, there is a sense of being a victim, in terms of the situation you found yourself in with your son. But you said something to me that I would like for you to repeat. If you have forgotten, I'll repeat it on your behalf. But you said something very inspirational in terms of how you looked at the situation with your son and what the difference he's made in your life.
Please repeat. I don't remember.
So no worries. So you said to me that the way you looked at it is how much he's enriched your life,
Yeah.
right? And it's like just a 180 from what I have seen people look at this same situation. So um, tell us about, is it you who've always felt that way, or looked at the world that way? Or was it, when you had to deal with the situation, you felt differently initially, but then you actually had to maybe come to terms with the situation, or you had a aha moment where you say, hey, you know what, this is unique and different, but it's also something that I can, help blossom in this world.
It did always start that way. Definitely when he was born and I was given a diagnosis of Down syndrome, I myself felt very down for a very long time. And there was like a mental grieving period for a while. And I won't say that I was born, like, not that I was born, but as soon as he was born, immediately a switch flipped. It nothing like that. There was a long time when I first was grieving, then I was trying to fix him. I was like, I will do whatever I can to make him as much as neurotypical as possible. Sometimes in the beginning, ego also has some positive effects. So since when I was a child, all these boxes that I'm telling you not to tick for your child, I have ticked all of those boxes. Very neurotypical learner, I'm very academically oriented, super nerd, like, got into IIT and was desperate to get into IIT. I thought that was the only way to live life. All this sharp stuff that was me, right? So I was like, there is no way any child of mine is not going to be like that. So initially that gives it's not a healthy mindset, but at least it gives you somewhere to go. And then you go and then you realize, okay, all of this is no use because you can keep doing that. It's like swimming upstream. So it's not going anywhere. That I think is the time when people either when you realize that you're walking on a treadmill that's going backwards because you're trying the wrong thing with the wrong person. This You can go into depression and you can just completely give up. Why did this happen to me? And I think that also I have thought, but it was just fortuitous because one day I was just seeing that, you know, I thought he was completely unable to communicate. And then I remember offering him a couple of choices and him pointing to the right choice. Just one day, one instance where he pointed to the right answer to some simple question. I think that was a switch. That was the aha moment. It's like, okay, he understands. And and after that, I think my whole energy was devoted towards how can I communicate with him as opposed to, so once I was able to, work through communication and by finding the right people, there's this lady called Soma Mukhopadhyay who lives in Austin, and she has developed this program called RPM, which stands for Rapid Prompting Method, which really thousands of autistic non-speakers have worked with her, and they all, she has helped them communicate. And then once the communication kicked in, right? Once I knew that, okay, like I just got the hint that there is something in there, like, I'm thinking this child is intellectually delayed. This is not true. That very moment, I think things change. That's it. So I you get a sense of purpose because once you realize that you are here to, as an enabler, he is not here to make my life better, right? And I am here. I mean, like I've been given a very rare window into the mind of a very unique person. So I think like what is there if you're not grateful for that? Otherwise, I would have been like my husband and I keep thinking that if he was typical, right? He's 16 now, would have also been okay. Should we look at Stanford or Berkeley? How can we make your resume better to get into the next college? Would have been very smug, very intolerable parents. The very typical Desi parents who are like constantly only talking about the next best college. So I do have a neurotypical daughter, so I may become that parent eventually. But for you know, we often talk about, okay, how grateful we are that we didn't go there. It could have been us very easily because we're both from IIT. We're both like thinking. We're very mind focused. So it was that shift, and once that shift happens, right? Once it's kind of like stepping out of the matrix, So once then you start seeing that, okay, you have stepped out of the matrix. You can see things like, you can see things that you have not seen before. It's, I don't know, what was it, the red pill or the blue pill, whatever. So that it's just that, like, I think there are, every mom, dad, teacher has those windows, but we keep trying to see what we want to see, right? We're thinking severe intellectual delay, what a tragedy, all of these things. But if you just look through that, then your entire perception changes. Then it's like, it's going from a state of oh my god to a state of like, wow. And of course, comes from dropping, and then automatically you don't have to drop expectations. Automatically, expectations will drop because the expectations are almost stupid compared to what is possible, because the expectations are very ghisapita, right? Like it's just then you realize that, oh, this life has no flavor. What we have been thinking, that we have been denied, that having this child with a disability has denied us Princeton, has denied us the ability to tell everybody, that my son is so great, and has denied us ABC. That life has no masala in it. But for to know that it has no masala, you have to step out, because I didn't know that. I thought that was my life. So
Fascinating, and thanks for sharing that
yeah.
information. So, um, you seem to be a very giving person. Not only you are helping your son, but you also share your experience on social media. So I would request the audience to go and check out your social media presence. We will place the links in the description. But thank you so much for doing that. I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. Now, you mentioned getting a glimpse into his world, right? So, what was the most fascinating thing that you found when you entered, into his world?
Non-linearity, I think, is that the way, now that I have like better communication, like fluent communication with him now that he's not a black box to me, right? So I see that the way he perceives time and the way he perceives events is non-linear. I was really trying to get him, like he is doing 11th grade, he's in an online public school, he is doing statistics and chemistry. But I'm realizing with time that these things are becoming difficult for him, not because he's intellectually delayed, but because his perception of time and events is very different. And I've realized as I work not just with Sid, but with other kids, that if we teach one thing after another, after another, after another, right, I think that's why our education system doesn't work. Because in like we are kind of like, I see that kids want to learn different things. Um, yeah, he can come and sit here. And if you can give me a letterboard too, that would be good. So kids want to learn different things and at different times. And when I want to um, when I try to educate in a very structured fashion, it's always a flop. Right now, we're doing chemistry in school, and we're trying to teach one thing after another. He is so demotivated, and many parents face this, and they think it is because the child doesn't have the ability. But I think the thing is that when a child is neurodivergent, it is not a lack of abilities, just that they are seeing a very different picture of the world, maybe a bigger picture. And I'm going to change the speaker because I'm so um
I said, I just want
oh,
to
there you
acknowledge
are.
him. Yeah,
And I'm going to put my
I was
AirPods
on
in
mute.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
so
you
you
hear
can
us?
you can still hear me, right?
Yeah. So,
Okay. Yeah.
real quickly, you also bring about nutrition in your video. So, what's the role of nutrition in, how you're trying to help him?
To stabilize the body. When you want to access the mind, the body has to be stable, right? And if the body is very unstable, like hyperactive dysregulation, when the body is very uncomfortable, then you cannot access the mind. The mind may still be there. Mind is, of course, always there. There is intelligence. It's not that those things are not there. But the body is so many autistic children I see, there is so much hyperactivity, discomfort in the body. So the nutrition is not like this whole thing about nutrition giving you brain health, right? It's only to a certain extent. It can give you, but what it's really giving you is some grounding. It's just like you have the nutrients to be comfortable. Your body is not in pain, discomfort, gut is okay. You're having a bowel movement daily. These are things that we take for granted, but most kids with disabilities actually cannot. Like they are in a lot of pain and discomfort. So I think that is the role of nutrition, is to ground the body, keep the body stable so that you can now move on.
Yeah, and as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm just fascinated by the fact that you're cutting those vegetables and you're talking at the same time, and
Yeah.
you haven't cut yourself. So hope you continue to maintain that record. Now, is there one of his favorite poems that you could share with us?
um, yeah. Um,
You need to get it.
no, I do, and I'm trying to decide. Yeah, I think I'll share uh, there are two or three. So maybe some of his poems are I'm getting it. I'm just copying it and paste and getting it. Some of his poems are very abstract. So I'm trying to find the most non-abstract poem to yeah. So I think there is one poem called "Give Man a River, Give Him a Mind." Let me see that. That one is okay. Yeah, this one. It's called "Let Him Live," and I'm going to paste it on the chat, which anyway I guess people cannot see. So, but
Could you recite it on his behalf?
yeah, I will.
Thank you.
Let him live. That's the title of the poem. Give man a river, give him a mind, give man a window so he can see his kind.
Awesome.
Yes, he has a huge document he's been writing for the last 4 years. So I think there are some 600 poems, but they go into all level of abstractness. So this was one of the early poems where the abstractness was less.
It's very profound.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
If you want to go, you can. If you need to take a break, you can, or you can say.
can you convey our best to him? You said
Yes.
he's able to communicate and
Yeah, and why don't you sit here? Can you move it? Okay. This is Parag Uncle and we're on an interview. This is a letterboard that we use. Usually I have a transparent one. I don't have one now. Okay. What's this? I, B, E, okay. L, O, N. I belong. I might need a different board. Keep moving. T, 2. What's that? Okay, not that. Something else. H, I. Okay, I think he. Okay. So hi, he was saying I belong to something, but I switched his line of communication. So he just said hi now.
That's fine. Yeah, that's I mean, I appreciate his time. If he has to excuse himself, he can. If you
Yeah.
think he needs to.
Yeah, and do you wanna go and hang and I'll come, you can go to bed later. Come. He is extremely tired today because you can get up. We had a long chemistry session because the semester is coming to an end and he's getting it done. Yeah, you're good. You can close the door behind you. And I was just kind of understanding the futility of conventional education. He's doing it, we're getting it done, but more and more I realize that we're trying to tick some boxes that we shouldn't be trying to. We still have some leftovers.
So, when is his book going to be out?
He has a couple of really small books that are out, but the major book deal with the publishing company, it's 2025 spring. So a year, 1 year.
So we'll be waiting for it in anticipation, and we will hope to be able to interview you and him
Yes,
at least a few
absolutely.
times
We have
before
to.
then, but at least before the launch. Now, you mentioned about chemistry today. What's his favorite subject?
To learn, he's been enjoying learning statistics, actually, the world of probability and so on, because we are learning probability right now in statistics. So he has been liking, so I would say statistics. I've noticed that what his favorite thing to do, like poetry, is not something that he likes to learn. He doesn't like to study it. He just likes to write his own poetry, but he's studying statistics with a lot of interest now.
Right. So, statistics is very tough.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that he enjoys it. So great. Yeah. So any parting words for our audience, for other mothers in your situation, any words of advice? Because, I've just found this session to be very inspirational.
I think the primary thing is that there is a field of all possibilities, and we are always thinking of disability as something that is holding us back. But if we just open our eyes in a different way, then I think just recognizing there is a field of all possibilities and all human beings are intelligent, and maybe not just intelligent, maybe even extremely intelligent. Like there is, we just have to find out how and how to communicate.
Fascinating and so inspiring. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was good talking to you.
Yeah, and his poetry is actually very good. It rhymed perfectly, and clearly he knows what he's doing. So
Yes.
Thanks a lot for sharing your time with us, and wish Sidhartha and you the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaste. Bye.